We are saying that their decision is the wrong decision. And in my opinion, it should be considered a first-degree corporate crime. Because the amount of people that will be hurt by this, the amount of elders that will not have access to health care is evil.
Do right by us. Do right by us.
They're making their message clear and known, walking inside the Walgreens on 87th and Cottage Grove.
Yeah, Adrian and Mitch, crime is up by nearly 40% compared to this time last year. Businesses are terrified, residents terrified, threatening to move to the suburbs. A brazen daylight robbery caught on camera at a downtown bakery, Chicago. It's part of a...
And yes, Brandon Johnson have lost his mind. And I think most of Chicago who received that enormous property tax bill, I think they're with me. We are not only funding illegal aliens' free lifestyle, we are funding Brandon Johnson and his administration lifestyle.
And let me make this emphatically clear. If you don't live in Chicago, you don't have a right to talk about the city of Chicago.
Chicago alderman says Walgreens should be charged with first-degree corporate abandonment. First-degree corporate abandonment. Is that even a thing? And this is because Walgreens is closing over theft and violence at this store in South Side of Chicago. So corporate is saying, no, we got to close that, otherwise somebody's going to get killed. And then you got a politician going, we need to hold corporate accountable for their corporate abandonment. Let's get into it. Here we go. Chatham neighborhood store in Ward 6 is slated to close June 4th after the chain cited theft and violence. Oh, they came right out and said it. They said the quiet part out loud. Now, we've seen CVS. We've seen, you name it. We've seen closures, right? And we've podcasted them all right here. Portland has had closures like there's no tomorrow. Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago, all of them have experienced some massive closures. Some of that is due to retail. In the case of CVS or Walgreens, it's oftentimes because those stores aren't making any money. They're getting robbed blind by the people living in the community. And there's multiple example after example after example of wacky violence happening in the store, to the point where corporate says, and if corporate has the option of looking across its spreadsheet, lining up which stores are making money and which ones aren't, and then they've got stores that get shoplifted 10 ways from Sunday, and then also have incident after incident after incident of violence, people doing crazy things. In the store, outside the store, in the parking lot, to each other. When you've got incidents like that, it's an easy call for corporate to just say, nope, closed. And that's what happened on this one. Chicago alderman, incensed by the upcoming closure of a Walgreens store amid safety concerns, stated the corporate retailer should be charged with first-degree corporate abandonment. Shouldn't the alderman be incensed that his constituents are acting so irresponsibly that their own stores are being closed? Shouldn't the alderman be taking some responsibility? Yeah, I need to work with these constituents, not have them brawl it out in the store, not steal from the store, because actions have consequences. You steal, you brawl, you do whatever, you beat people up, you do crazy stuff, store closes down. Pretty simple. But instead, we go to this, we've got first-degree corporate abandonment. They're not abandoning anything. They're getting out because it doesn't make sense for them to continue to run this store. And a business has to stay in business by making a profit. If the store isn't profitable, then they have to go in front of their shareholders and say, we're keeping this store open because we want it to be a charity case. And that just doesn't happen, does it? That's the government. That's what government does. They provide charity cases. Corporate doesn't do that. So this whole first-degree corporate abandonment is just a bunch of nonsense by people who want to shift the blame from themselves, taking accountability for their actions of their own constituents, to, it's big corporate's fault. It's not big corporate's fault. These are the consequences of just hooligans, shenanigans. What did you think would happen? How many other little sayings do we have to come up with, right? Alderman William Hall, along with several community members, held a news conference Monday to voice their anger over the company's decision to close the location in Chicago's 6th Ward in the Chatham neighborhood. We had the exact same deal here in Seattle. In Lake City, Kroger's closed a Fred Meyer, and people got all worked up. It's Kroger. Their big corporate is shutting down our store. Now we're going to have a grocery desert. Not going to have any grocery stores for a long ways. Well, if your constituents wouldn't steal, and if they wouldn't do crazy stuff, like in other areas, because you know what? In areas where the stores aren't being shoplifted and where they don't have safety issues, those are staying open. Actions have consequences. It's not that hard, Willie Hall. Walgreens should be charged with first-degree corporate abandonment, Hall said. It should be a crime the way they're treating our families. You know, instead of looking at the elders and the families, you should be talking about how can we make this better? What can we do to encourage more grocery stores to come here? How about don't rob them blind? What about that? Maybe don't have absolute haymaking brawls go on in your stores. Oh, hey, no, can't talk about that. That would require responsibility. That would require acting in a civil manner. We're not doing that because that, again, responsibility for one's own actions. We're just not doing that. Not doing that. Now, what I do want to say here is, yeah, it's terrible for the elders. And you should know that these elders and people that have disabilities and have a tough time getting to the store, they're going to be impacted if your numbnut people in your community keeps robbing the stores blind. That's what's going to happen. This is what happens. Walgreens should be charged. Okay, we already read that. Store is slated to close on June 4th. It's bad. I mean, honestly, yeah, what happens is they make these notifications and everybody gets all worked up. And then the city council, maybe the mayor and the alderman, in this case in Chicago, they go to corporate and say, what can we do? What can we work out? And corporate says, hey, the damage has been done. We've already made the decision. We're closing the store down. We don't have to keep the store open. Yeah, but we've got a food desert. Well, that's what happens. That is what happens. Oh. You know what I mean? It's like, what did you think was going to happen? Oh. And then these guys come up with no more corporate abandonment. Reason I'm doing this one is this is a new reaction. No more corporate abandonment. Go out there with signs, hold signs. That's the most ridiculous thing ever. It's never going to work. It'll never work. It doesn't. Because it comes down to numbers. It comes down to, does corporate make a profit? And I'm not trying to stick up for big corporate. I'm just telling you how it is. You know, and we all take a whack from big corporate, right? Big corporate is able to control our lives from a certain standpoint. And then when they shut down in your community, that sucks. But this wouldn't be happening if the store wasn't fearful for the safety of its employees, its managers, its vendors, its customers. We haven't even talked about, clientele purchasing from the store. If that wasn't a factor, and if the store wasn't being robbed blind, you'd have plenty of grocery stores. You'd have plenty of Walgreens throughout your community, like you do in other communities where this type of behavior, these type of shenanigans are not happening. Now, notice nobody's saying, hey, this isn't true. Nobody is saying that's not happening. They're blaming corporate. They're just like, oh yeah, we know that's going on. We know that's happening. However, no more corporate abandonment, because that takes the responsibility away from the people doing the activity that's caused this. Corporate wants to make money, and if they were making money at this store, it would still be in business. We wouldn't be having this podcast, right? In a statement to the Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago-based area primary pharmacy store chain cited theft and violent incidents as the primary factors behind its decision to close the store on South Cottage Grove Avenue. Now, if you were wondering where that is or where this is, it is basically right here. You're on the south side of Chicago, 10 miles from downtown Chicago, just basically due south. So yeah, it's the south side, and it's being robbed blind. And they came right out and said, violence. Despite a range of efforts, including previous operating adjustments, they do all these kinds of things so that when they do close the store down, they can say, hey, we did previous operating adjustments. Ongoing safety challenges have made it increasingly difficult to maintain a secure environment for our team members and customers. While this was not an easy decision, safety must remain our top priority. Please visit us either online at walgreens.com or our other stores in neighborhoods where they're not robbing it blind and you don't have the safety shenanigans going on that we do in this one. Walgreens confirmed that employees at this location will be eligible to transfer. All right. Hall emphasized the community isn't begging Walgreens to stay, but argued the company is in the wrong for leaving residents without a place to fill medical prescriptions. Okay. United States is based on capitalism. If you can't make money at it, you close her down. That's the bottom line. If you need a place to fill medical prescriptions without any kind of capitalism involved, then you need to have a city-run pharmacy. And the way Chicago is going, that's never going to happen because there's always a massive budget deficit. And when you have a numbnut in charge, like Let's Go Brandon Johnson, yeah, as much as he would love to run a whole bunch of city-owned medical prescription pharmacies, never going to happen. Never going to happen. I mean, look at the uproar in New York City with Mom Donnie doing grocery store. He's doing one grocery store going to cost $30 million. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't pencil. Chicago doesn't have enough money to do it. And you know what? You wouldn't have to do this. You didn't have the factors we've already talked about. He warned that the closure would create a medicine drought for seniors and residents managing chronic health conditions. As you hear stores talking about their safety concerns, their fears of being broken into, their fears of being stolen from, that's when you have to say, you know what? We should really investigate this. We should really do something about this because eventually this is going to impact the most vulnerable in our community, and that's the elderly and the disabled. They can't get there easily to get their medications. That is the personal responsibility part of this that we're not seeing, we're not hearing. We're blaming big corporate because you know what? It's a lot easier to blame Walgreens than it is to take a good hard look at a community and say, are you guys doing the right thing? Are you guys doing the right thing? And I don't hear anybody saying that they're doing the right thing. I hear them going immediately to, oh, Walgreens, corporate. He further noted Walgreens ran out all the small local businesses in the area when it originally opened. Yep, that does happen. You have Costco come in, boop, small stores get pushed out, right? But then you can't rely upon, Walgreens staying through thick and thin if you treat it poorly. And that's what this is all about. Walgreens, and they don't need to have thick skin. They don't need to take it because they got plenty of other stores to keep open, to keep running. Now, retail in general has been whacked like there's no tomorrow because so many people are just getting this stuff off Amazon. So you've got a bunch of double whammies happening out there. And then you got, people like this. Hold Walgreens accountable. All right. So Alderman Raymond Lopez, a Democrat, says he understands the community's frustration, but questioned the timing of the outrage. Where was that anger when the stores in our communities were under years and years of assault by criminals allowed to shoplift, vandalize, and destroy neighborhood institutions. There you go. I mean, that's as plain as day. Had the outrage been there, had this been preventative, hey, you know what? Let's make it tough to shoplift from the store. Let's incarcerate people who shoplift. People who vandalize, let's incarcerate them. And, folks who destroy neighborhood institutions, let's incarcerate them. But we've gone to this justice reform deal that has resulted in people doing whatever the F they want. And that includes shoplifting, violence, vandalism, all that stuff. And then you've got this situation where corporate says, nope, shenanigans too much. Boom, done, closed. June, whatever it was, last day. Bye-bye. Many leaders say it's simply an insurance matter. They are wrong. There are real-world consequences for crime running rampant. This closure is the perfect example of that effect. That's a really, really ignorant idea that they have insurance and that's going to cover it. You can only claim insurance so many times. It's like if you crash your car 14 times and you claim insurance. You're not getting insurance anymore. You're not, and your premiums for the last 5 wrecks are going to be horrific. So that's not a thing. So that true ignorance is being spoken there. And this guy is basically saying that insurance is, it's simply an insurance matter. It's not, because you can't claim insurance. Insurance doesn't cover the lawsuit that happens when a customer gets in the midst of one of these fights or whatever kind of violence breaks out when you've got a safety issue and they get sued and there's a wrongful lawsuit happen. And insurance has to pay out massive amounts of money because it happened in a corporate environment. So insurance, it doesn't work that way. And corporate, their job is to analyze risk and say, you know what? Of all the stores we have, some aren't making money, some are getting shoplifted, some have safety issues. And that's this one. And boom, it's done. It is done. So Walgreens closed other stores because of rampant theft. San Francisco area. Let's go look at that one. San Francisco minors as young as 12 caught allegedly shoplifting over $84,000 of merchandise, said police. This is a Walgreens store in the Bay Area. So there you go. That happens enough times. Guess what? That store gets closed. Pretty basic stuff. This is not earth-shattering. This is not hey, I can't believe that happened. And then, top pharmacy chain to permanently shutter another store despite major U-turn on 700 closures for 2026. This is March 27th, 2026, a couple of months ago. And that store was this one right here in Seattle, 2400 South Jackson Street. So the reason they closed this store down, you have got 12th and Jackson is right in here. And that is one of the most hideous crime areas in all of the Pacific Northwest. You've got open air drug dealing. You've got human trafficking. You've got open air drug use on goods being purchased. It's a clearinghouse for all kinds of crime. There's all kinds of violence happening. And so at 2400 South Jackson, 12 blocks away, 3/4 of a mile away, this is in a tough area. It's a tough area, Seattle. And Walgreens said, you know what? Same deal. We're closed. And they got upset when this store closed, or this store is closing. I think it's closing in May this month. It has options. They don't have to keep these stores open. And I think there's this misnomer that they need to keep it open for the people. They don't. They need to keep it open so they make money so that they can stand during their corporate meetings, shareholder meetings, and say, well, we're losing money on that one. Well, we closed it. Too much of a liability. We closed it. Pretty simple basics, pretty simple business basics. First degree corporate abandonment. I mean, whew. It's a good try for. It sounds great. In reality, it has nothing to do with reality, because the system doesn't work that way, right? The system works on, is it profitable? Is it safe? Does it make sense for us to keep this open? And unfortunately, this one in South Chicago, they said, nope, gone, goodbye. Decisions are made based on actions and consequences. It's not that hard, but it seems to be really difficult for people in these areas where these stores are being robbed blind to kind of work that through, because I don't think they really consider that. Like, oh yeah, insurance. Till they go up to their store and, hey, pharmacy's closed. Now I got to go a mile that way. And that's frustrating. And I feel bad for people who can't get around. However, where was that outrage when this was all happening? That's the question, right? All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. I'd love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.